Welcome to Voice Notes from a Slow Life. I'm Emily and I'm glad you're here. These are real time reflections on slowing down, mothering gently, and choosing a more intentional life. Let's begin. So, today I want to talk about when we're sick as mothers and the guilt, shame, and depression that can creep up when we try and take care of ourselves. And this topic came to me because I was extremely sick last week with a really bad cold. I hadn't got a cold in a while and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I feel like, and I don't know if it's just me, colds have been worse since COVID. I don't know if it's just me. And I still have a little bit of the remnants because, of course. Um, and I was feeling all types of feelings. And I figured if I'm feeling them, you might be feeling them as well because right now it is cold and flu season. And I have a lot of my moms that I work with who every time I see them, they have a new cold or strep throat or pink eye or you name it. It's like sometimes it's a never ending revolving door of sickness, especially if you have more than one kid, where one gets it, the other one gets it, then you get it, then your husband gets it, and it's just like goes merry-go-round. And to give some context, and I'll talk about myself right now. Like I said, I was really sick last week. So it was like a severe cold, a lot of, uh, nasal issues, a lot of blowing my nose, a lot of coughing, like that deep guttural, like coughing, and this overwhelming sense of fatigue and like a blurriness. You know when like your head feels like wishy washy. And lucky enough for me, I didn't have a big client list to see that week. And when I did, it took a lot of energy to really be present because I wasn't sick enough where I couldn't work, but I was sick enough where I just wanted to lay down. um, and so most of my week last week was spent doing just that. It was spent resting, lots of sleeping, lots of sleeping, lots of naps. And it also meant that the exchange of work in our home, it changes. So we don't do 50-50 in our home. We do percentages. So if I'm at a 10, my husband carries the rest. If he's at a 10, I carry the rest. And so we go by how we're feeling. It's a very supportive environment. And so because I really wasn't doing well, my husband was picking up a lot of, the extra work. So he was the one who was driving my daughter, to and from daycare, at the bedtime routine. He was doing every single nighttime like put down where we lay on the floor with her and talk before she goes to bed. And like I didn't make tons of meals, or we had like really random meals, but I would, as much as possible in the evenings, even hide away. And part of that was because I also just didn't want to get them sick. Luckily, they didn't get sick, which was awesome. But the other part of it was I was just so tired. Like I could barely function. And it's hard when you have a toddler, my daughter's 3, to run away to another room. So I'm extremely lucky. My husband is extremely supportive and a great father. Yet, my daughter's still like, "Where's mama? I want mama. I want cuddles. I want kisses. She wants to eat from the same bowl I'm eating from. It's all that." And it's a lot of like, "Oh, mama, I can't right now. Oh, mama's sick. You can't eat from my bowl." Or "Mama's sick. I have to go lay down." And she is 3, so she understands a little bit, but like, it's still difficult. And when I get sick, I often like have to isolate to feel better because I'm somebody who recharges just through a lot of rest. Um, but I also tend to get really depressed when I'm sick. And when I'm depressed when I'm sick, I often feel, and like this is very common for anybody who struggles with depression. When you're in a depressive state, it can feel like I've always been depressed and I'll always be depressed. And you don't have a sense of what reality really looks like. You're just like when you're in that state, you feel like you've always been in that state. And this is a very common thing for me and for others. And so when I was in that state, I kept telling myself, like, oh, you're like a bad mom. You're not playing. You're not fun. Your husband's doing everything. You're doing nothing. You suck. So I felt a lot of guilt and shame. And in the past, I've pushed myself to 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 to, to go against like having to rest. I would like push myself. So like in the summer, for instance, I hurt my hip really badly and I couldn't carry my daughter. But I felt bad about not carrying my daughter, so I would carry her once in a while, and then I would fuck my hip up more, and then like delay the healing time. And so for this cold, like I didn't want to extend the healing time, so I was really careful of like really making sure I set my boundaries with myself and my daughter and everything. Um, but I still felt that like aching guilt and shame for being a bad mom. And I kept reminding myself, because I know this is my pattern. I kept telling myself, like, you haven't always been this sick or depressed or whatever. You're not going to feel like this forever. You're going to get out of it. And by the weekend, I did. Like, then one of the days I woke up and I was like, oh, energy. Oh, I can breathe. And then I was like, I had energy. I was dancing with her and all that. And I turned to my husband and I go, hey, I'm not a shitty mom. And he's like, no, you're not. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a good mom. He's like, yeah, you are. As if like it was like, oh wow. I was, because like when you're in that state of not feeling good, you're like, I suck. I'm the worst mom in the world. And then when you're finally out of that state, you're like, yo, I'm like pretty good. Like we were dancing and playing, we were drawing, we were making food together. And it's recognizing for myself that that's only possible because I had to do the hard work of putting myself first, right? And that's why I always say, like, putting yourself first is putting your children first, because when you put yourself first and you heal, then you have the energetic capacity to then be with your children. And so it's recognizing that sometimes we have to go through seasons. And like for me, this was a 1 week thing. And I've had it when I hurt my hip, it was like a couple months. Now, during the sick time, you might go through bouts of sickness over and over and over again. Or you might have really bad pregnancy symptoms, for instance, that your whole first trimester, you are just completely kaput, depressed, sick, not doing well. Or you might have chronic, a chronic disability or chronic pain that maybe flares up during certain times of year or certain seasons or just in certain times. And what I want to remind you is that you are not going to completely fuck up your kids because you care for yourself. I know it can feel that way, and your kids might be sad and they might cry and they might be like, why? And it's extremely hard. And the guilt, I understand the guilt comes in, the shame comes in, and all that. But I need you to recognize that you need to take care of yourself, because if you don't, you're actually going to prolong that time that you won't be able to fully engage with your children. And recognize that it is a season, and that, this is not your state all the time. A lot of the time you are mothering in the way that is appropriate for your family. And I'm being careful not to give any like specific description of like what that mothering could look like, because maybe it's dancing around and playing outside, but maybe for others it's reading books or whatever. We all have our own way and what our children's need. And when during those difficult seasons, you just adapt your play, because play doesn't always have to be running everywhere. When was sick and I was spending time with my daughter, when I could, it was reading books. The playing changed. And there are times when like you might be sick for a very long time or bedbound for a very long time. So for instance, my mother, her mother is my grandmother. I remember her telling me that she was extremely ill for a certain part of my mother's childhood, and it was actually the older sister who was doing a lot of the mothering stuff. And even like my husband, I know that his mother was very sick for a long time, and they remember these times, but that is not like the thing they remember most about their parents. So, if you were to ask my mom about her mother, so she remembers that time where her mother was extremely ill, but most of the stories she tells are not about that time frame. They're the fun stuff, they're other things. For my husband too, like the stories I hear about his mother when I go to family reunions or family gatherings and stuff like that, it's like the funny stuff, the stories, it's not the times where they were not well. Because you have to remember that you have a lot of opportunities to really be present and really be engaged and really be the mother that you want to be and that your children need. And it is okay that there are seasons where you can't be as involved as you want. And it is okay if your involvement changes during those seasons. Because we think that sometimes we think that we need to be entertainers for our children. We don't need to be entertainers. They just need a present force that is there. Now, I am really lucky. I have my husband. Oh, sorry if you can hear my dog in the background. She's huffing. She's going, anyway, I'm very lucky. My husband's amazing, extremely involved father. So my absence isn't as bad because he is extremely involved. My daughter is like wanting for nothing. Like she has somebody who is fully engaged with her. However, sometimes we don't have a partner who is as present, and that could be for various reasons, because maybe your partner just isn't, and that sucks. Or maybe they have a differing work schedule. Maybe they work away from home, or maybe you're a single parent. That's also a case. And in those situations, you don't have anybody to fall back on. You can't do like me and run away to a room. You have to be there. And so what I want to tell you in those moments where you can't run away and you can't escape and all of that, and not I'm saying you're escaping your kids, but sometimes we have to. You can still mother gently. You can still like manage your energy. And so maybe you're usually the mom who bakes and plays and cooks and goes outside and does all these things. But in the season where you're not doing well and you don't have anybody to fall back on, or even if you do have somebody to fall back on, maybe your mothering changes. Maybe the meals look a little bit easier. Maybe instead of going outside, we're having quiet drawing time. Maybe instead of playing and dancing, we're having reading time. And if you need to use the goddamn TV, use the goddamn TV. It is not the devil. When I was sick and I had to watch her, because sometimes my husband needs to rest himself, God forbid. I watched Alice in Wonderland. It's fine. It's okay. I'm sitting next to her. I'm talking to her. We're watching it. Um, it's not the worst thing in the world. It is really not. And if that's what you need to be able to function through this season, that is what you need to do. And so don't be in the season where things are more difficult and be like, oh, why can't I be like how I usually am? It's like, well, no shit, Sherlock, you can't be how you usually are. You're fucking sick. You're fucking in pain. Like the situation is different. It's natural. It's natural and it's okay. And you don't have to over explain yourself. You don't have to, go, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to make it up to you. It's like, no, it's just that this season is going to look different and it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine because no matter what, your child's going to feel your love. And it also teaches your children that, when they're ill or when they're injured or when they're having a hard time, they can also rest. They can also take time because, it's not great for them to see their parent run themselves into the ground when they're not well, because when they become parents themselves or adults, they're also going to feel the need to run themselves into the ground when they're unwell. So remember also that you are modeling for your children. And I would love for you to be able to do this without me having to tell you that you're modeling for your children. I'd love for you to do this just by virtue of wanting to take care of yourself. But mothers are very selfless individuals. And so mentioning children often helps push the message further and actually make us want to engage in it. So, if you're not going to do it for yourself, then do it for your children. Because one, they'll see you properly taking care of yourself. And two, you'll be able to get through the season easier and won't prolong it because you haven't pushed too far, because you don't want to like push too much and then fall back, So, so show yourself grace, show yourself some self-compassion, give yourself some freaking leeway, and care for yourself because you matter. Okay? Show yourself some love. You should love yourself. Show yourself some self-compassion and care for yourself. Your well-being is extremely important. Okay. I'm going to end that there. If I sounded a bit weird, I slept on my daughter's floor last night. She was not having a good time. But it's okay because I always remind myself sometimes like I'm not going to have those opportunities all the time. So slept on her floor. But it's okay. Anyway, thank you for listening. If this episode spoke to you, it would mean so much to me if you would follow, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need it. Until next time, keep living your authentic life.